Hello, everyone. This is an open video to the Tucson City Council Ward members. This is presented by myself, Stephen Reff, along with Jim Sims, who's unable to be with us today in this presentation. First off, when the Proposition 407 was on the ballot in November 2018, the city put out this final planning memorandum, and as you can see at the bottom, it says July 2017. The election was November 2018. And if you want more information on this, you can, when you click on the link shown on the slide. But anyway, inside it, page one, what this document states is pedestrian bicycle connectivity from Reed Park, Randolph to the downtown business district. Do you notice the word says from? It doesn't say through. And I think that's a very, very important preposition. This same quote shows up on page 25 in two places, and then it also gives it during the recommendations. And that word from is very important in this planning document, because then it went to the city about what do you want to use these funds for? And this is the Proposition 407. And in the Proposition 407, which is $225 million, was going to be broken up into three phases: 2019, 2023, and 2026. And so far, the next improvement that they're looking at, because they've already improved the Refkin Tennis Center, no relationship to me. My last name's Ref. That's the Refkin Tennis Center. But anyway, they have finished construction there. And the next thing that they're going to work on is the David Bell multi-use path, and then also the renovation of Randolph Golf Complex irrigation systems. That's in phases 1 and 2. Let's look at the current layout and what the proposal is. And the proposal is to put a central greenway right between the golf courses of Randolph North and Del Uric. Del Uric, though, becomes the important one here, because this was approved through a long process with the Army Corps of Engineers in Section 408, and you can look that up. But this is the drainage basin for the Chico Arroyo. Now, what they want to do is when they separate this, they're really going to try to take 13% of the park, or basically 13% of the park, and make it into this thoroughfare that goes between both golf courses. So anyway, let's look at the old setup and then what they're currently wanting to do here. If you notice here in this diagram to the left, this is the current layout of Randolph North. But when you look at this diagram, after they want to put this central greenway through here, notice that the holes obviously are different, but they go through these large set of trees. So looking at number 1, you'd have to cut down a bunch of trees here. Looking at number 2, then, you have it going from here all the way to here, which means now you have to cut down a bunch of trees that are right here by hole 11 tee box. And then when you look at some of these others, look at hole 5, cutting through all of these trees that they're going to have to cut down. Look at number 8, cutting down all these trees. Number 11, cutting down all these trees. We're looking at, this is going to be a hotter place, not a cooler place, because the trees obviously keep this, and the watering of the golf course keeps this place lush. So anyway, they came up with a new design and tried to hide this design. And if you notice in all the publications now, they don't even show what they were trying to do to Del Uric and what they're trying to do to North. I think that's sort of trying to cheat the process here. But anyway, if you want to read more about these, you could always click on these links. But the Arizona Daily Star said this: under the new concept, both golf courses would remain and be improved to championship level golf courses. You can't shrink the size of the golf courses and make them championship golf courses. In December of 2023, and it's looked at focusing on, the first phase focuses on voter-approved safety and irrigation. So we're going to start with this, the safety and irrigation. So let's look at the safety issues. First off, you want to put a central greenway through a golf course where people are hitting golf balls. And the way you have it set up, obviously, there's going to be more noise. Dogs are going to be running around. People who don't have homes might be living in the park because they can stay there between dawn and dusk. There are so many variables that could go wrong with this concept. One of the safety issues for anybody who's played Del Uric, here is the driving range to the left, and you will see 20, 30 balls sitting out in the fairway. Now, we as golfers know that balls are going to come over the fence, but people who are walking, running around with their kids, baby carriages, they'll have no idea what's coming their way. So watch out for the lawsuits. A safety issue, obviously, is somebody getting hit by a golf ball. I mean, 40,000 people get hit by golf balls. Now, that's just on a golf course mostly, but I don't know the statistics of what's going on with people getting hit by golf balls. But something came out in California where somebody was hit walking along the fence and sued. And so if you want to read this, you can open up the link that I gave you at the beginning of the video. You can turn that walkway into 22nd Street Park. Many residents and local officials have commented on significant drug use in the park and complained about safety issues. Yet the Mayor Regina Romero, says this: we realize that Santa Rita Park needs a lot for investment. It's the heart of a special area of our city. It should be a place where we gather both Southside and downtown to recreate. And I agree with that. Please help those residents down there. And so use some of the money that you're looking to lose and put it into Santa Rita Park if you have to. Number two, irrigation. Now, this was the proposal that the citizens voted for in that $225 million proposal, that $5.1 million would go to El Rio and Randolph Golf Complex. And basically that was going to be targeted for, re-irrigation, because the irrigation systems, are starting to break down overall this time. And projected cost of irrigation right now is $4.9 million for Randolph Complex. So that takes care of all of that Proposition 408 money from 2018. Let's look at Tucson Delivers Parks and Connections. At this point, the investment has been $6.4 million. And here's what's happened. Going into phase two now, because it didn't happen really a lot in phase one, is the David Bell multi-use path that goes around the Randolph Golf Complex. And obviously the Repkin Tennis Center is in construction and it's probably completed by now, but the second phase is now renovate Randolph Golf Complex irrigation. Nothing is mentioned about a greenway through Randolph Golf Complex. Notice that? Jim Sims, who I was working on this project with, when he went to the first meeting on November 4th, 2023, he asked about a cost-benefit analysis, and the Parks and Recreation didn't have any idea about the cost-benefits analysis. They hadn't prepared one, or at least weren't willing to show it. Let me give you the data that I've researched, and please, if I'm wrong on this data, I want somebody to correct me, but when you look at Randolph Del Uric, their profit was $332,000. So the profit margin of golf courses is pretty thin, everyone. And don't forget, this is 2 golf courses. So let's look at the other golf courses in Tucson. So next you have Silver Bell that lost $81,000. Don't forget, everybody, when you lose money, that doesn't mean that the city didn't benefit outside of Silver Bell Golf Course. In other words, a lot of golfers come in from the county and spend money in the city. And so I'll just call that basically a wash, but let's just stick with the absolute figures. If you notice then, if I subtract the $81,000 from Del Uric, you still have a profit going. And then you have Fred Inc., which lost $291,000. 4 city golf courses are losing $40,000. That's it. And don't forget, from the east side, you got people coming from the county, spending and so forth. Let's see what El Rio is. El Rio lost over $500,000 for a total loss of the 5 city golf courses, $612,000. All you have to do is read the numbers if my numbers are correct. So now we finally have gotten the cost benefit summary that's in the Park and Recreation's brochure that you can get from one of the links that I've given you. The funding source, you have $4.9 million, which was approved in Proposition 407. And then the path on, $1 million. This is where they think they're going to be bringing in revenue. Okay, so they get it from Proposition 407. Their partnership opportunities are sort of like trying to partner up with the elk, the conquistadors. But the conquistadors are busy running their tournament up at La Paloma, and they'll stay at private, beautiful mountain courses rather than come down to Randolph. So I don't know who they're going to partner up with to make that. And to be honest with you, I haven't looked up what each of the next 2 million are, but we're only looking at a couple million. Okay, so the total is 10 million. But look at the expenses. To renovate now Randolph North, okay, that isn't even counting Del Uric like they wanted to redo. That's 14 million. The clubhouse, 8 million. The path and improvements. So this is the greenway. The path and the improvements, that 5 million's got to include the greenway. Del Uric to account for path. So now they're looking at the redoing of Del Uric, which now you bring in the added expense of the Army Corps of Engineers, because Del Uric is really the water retention basin for the Chico Arroyo. So look at the total expenses of $29 million. And so they put in Delta, which is a loss of $18 million. Let's just put that in the terms of what Oro Valley went through. When we look at Oro Valley, let's go to the David Bell multi-use path. So we're talking about this path that goes around Randolph Golf Complex. Looking at the David Bell multi-use pathway, you have vegetation here along 22nd Street. Here is a gentleman running along 22nd Street. So you have from the curve all the way to the fence, which is about 21 feet, 22 feet wide. Some more vegetation. And the vegetation goes along the roadway. As you can tell, this is basically a straightaway with some vegetation. It's not very aesthetically pleasing to the eye. You have a chain link fence here. And so when you're looking at redoing this multi-use pathway, most of the people who see this pathway are the neighbors living across the street or in the neighborhood across the street, or the cars driving by going back and forth to work. So maybe you'd want to beautify this area, but there are some places that you can maybe bring the fence in, but you might have to get that approved through the Army Corps of Engineers in Section 408, and that's going to cost you more money. But let's take a look of where you might be able to bring the fence in. But again, you'd have to check with the Army Corps of Engineers. You have the tee box back here. So you got the cart path along this high ridge here, which then sinks down for the water retention basin that's along this area here. But you could bring the fence in here a little bit, get rid of this cart path, have the carts come down here, drive back up here, and you got a little fence that you can move in here. These trees block this whole area, which is just a dirt hill, and you can beautify that area and maybe bring the fence in here, make it a high fence. But I have seen golf balls come through here and land anywhere in this area. Don't forget, the hole, if you notice, is 557 yards. So somebody who's going to hit it 300 yards is going to get right about to this black dot. But these are the real long ball hitters. This area, once they've hit the golf ball in this area is pretty well designed with trees that you might be able to bring the fence in a little bit here. You could bring the fence in a little bit here. But once you get around the 150 marker, now the fence has to stay pretty close to that cart path there because balls tend to stray in this area. But I do want to point out again that this multi-use path, and as you can see, people are using it, is also along 22nd Street along the park. Does that mean you're going to go ahead and, move in farther into the park? You're not going to do that. So if you're not going to do that with the park, you shouldn't do much changing with it along 22nd Street and Del Uric Golf Course. The next thing we're going to look at are the plans that the city has for this walkway and how much room they want to go ahead and take, which is not going to be feasible, I don't think, once you get done with this study. But here's what they want to do. This is the existing. It's 23 feet. Currently, this is 23 feet. They want to go in 50 feet. These are the existing trees to remain. So now they're going to the top of the hill here. Once they get to the top of this hill, golf balls are flying into these trees. Let's look at this design. I just showed you that you'd go 23 feet. This is the existing 22nd Street, okay? So you have 22nd Street here. You have the David Bell multi-use path right here. It is currently 23 feet wide. We need to move this fence in just 2 yards because if you go by this plan that they have here, this is the proposed plan. Look at this. They want to put a 12-foot rain gutter, 12 feet from here to here, half this distance. Let's say they want to use 12 feet, and then they want to use the multi-use. They can still do this and move this fence in to where the hill starts here. They want to take that hill and then make a walking path up here. Now, here's where the fence is going to go, everybody. And anybody who's played golf has hit the ball over these fences down into this area right here. But you can get the people off the street, make it look beautiful, beautify the lousy chain link fence that you have dead vegetation on currently, and just move it in 2 more paces. And then you probably won't have to go through the Section 408.